The Michigan Renaissance Festival is about to begin. Tell us which OC TV show you're watching and we'll send you a limited number of tickets while supplies last. Just send a self-addressed stamped envelope to 1775 North Lapeer Road and we'll get them back to you. See you there. Huzzah!
Motion by Helmut.
Welcome to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we're here to talk about what goes on in the village, the township. You know, those government people that make laws and regulations that affect you out there.
That's right, Elgin. And whether you live in the village of Oxford, the village of Leonard, Addison Township, or Oxford Township, these are the people that, a couple of years ago, you went and elected, and you will get that opportunity again in November. November what?
November 7th.
November 7th?
Something along that line.
Or 6th? Or 7th?
Or 5th? 4th? This guy spreads rumors.
But anyhow.
You already realize this.
But they have the committees and the commissions that make decisions that would have directly affected you had you attended that meeting. And that's why we're here.
Absolutely. And also, if you're not at that meeting, there's a thing called humor that kind of floats around. We tried to drag it out, screaming and kicking, and provide that information to you.
That's
and
right.
One of the things that goes along with humor is what?
It's first cousin, rumor.
And this guy, as I said, spreads it rather thick.
Yeah,
so
sure.
keep an eye on it. If you don't attend the meetings, though, you can get the gist of what went on pretty much by watching our show Minutes by Minute. And we try to be pretty frank about what goes on.
Go ahead, Frank.
Got it. All right. Well, let's talk about a couple of meetings that occurred recently. Well, actually, one a little bit further down the line was the regular meeting for the Leonard Village Council, which was held on August 13th. And the other one is Oxford Village Council meeting, which was held on August 28th. But let's get on to the Leonard meeting first of all. Mike McDonald serves as the president of that board. Shar Southerby is on the board. Paul Almiranti is on the board. Larry Hoffman and Alexander or Alex Kennedy. Clerk Cindy Grosskopf was there, and the treasurer Judy Verse was there. And they did the pledge, of course, and the preliminaries, which they always do up front. Minutes for July 9th were discussed and approved. Agenda for August 13th was also approved immediately. Look how quick we're moving along. Huh?
What are we going to do? We're going to run out of time.
What are we going to do? I don't know, but he'll think of something, I'm sure. Treasurer's report was the next thing that they covered. It was received and filed, so that went along rather quickly. Accounts payable bills. Now, you know there's several accounts that they extract money from. One is the general fund, and the amount required was $22,000.
Are these bills that have been paid or will be paid?
Will be paid. And they're getting approval for payment.
Oh.
And the first one from the general fund is $22,480.31. And the second one is the major account, which is $35.30. That's a big amount.
In a major account?
Yeah, what did you do?
What makes it major if it's only that much?
That should be called, changed to a minor account.
That's
Probably.
right.
Yeah, that makes more sense. You're right. Local account. I guess there is no local account because it's zero.
Oh.
And the mill and parks account was zero. So nothing was expensed out of there. And by the way, the new mill, or the old mill that they're refurbishing into the new mill, could use a little help out there. So contact the village people at the powers to be and see if they need anybody to pitch in and give them a hand.
Do they have a date set when that should be ready?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Whenever they get it finished, I think.
I see.
They're trying to get donations, that kind of thing.
That's kind of like ASAP.
Right. But there are a number of people, you know, in Leonard that pitch in, roll their sleeves up, and they donate money and also their time and efforts.
That's right. They have a lot of volunteers out in Leonard and Addison Township.
They're kind of like an army of ants. They just
a lot of civic-minded people out there.
They are. Very good people. Public comment, not on the agenda. One resident complained about a resident's lawn. That, hey, you know, Charlie needs to mow his lawn. You know, it's up to my ears.
It reminds me of a case they had in Oxford at one time.
Oh, what case was that?
One of the, I don't think he was on the council at the time, but they were after him to mow his lawn. Mm-hmm. And I believe he came in with like a 3-year project for it.
He put it on schedule for 3 years?
I think so.
Oh, that's an interesting little approach.
But progress was being made.
How did that work for him?
I don't know.
Has he still got grass, or is he long gone?
Oh, I'm sure the grass is there. I just don't know how high it is.
Getting higher all the time. Anyhow, that could happen, I guess. So anyway, so the concerns are there, and of course the administrative people understood the situation with the grass, and they said, well, they'll catch fire to it next week.
Do they have an ordinance guy out there?
They do have an enforcement guy. I think it's probably the president of the village.
Double duty.
Yeah, it'd be Mr. McDonald. Usually he rolls his sleeves up and does all those kind of things as well. Knocks on the door about midnight or 1 in the morning. Did you know your lawn needs to be mowed?
What?
Okay. And of course the guy replies, did you know that you're at the wrong address? Goodbye.
You know I've called the police.
Yeah, right. So any new business? Okay, resident petitioned 94 signatures and wanting a municipal sewage system. You know there the water table is quite low. And of course there's regulations to put in engineered septic fields. And of course their cost is can be rather high depending on what needs to be done for the particular property.
So where does it get pumped to?
Well, that's true. So anyway, this resident said, well, let's have a municipal sewage system. And of course, the president of the village, Mr. McDonald, said, I'd love to do that. He says, but can you say money?
Yeah, the assessment,
we have none?
the assessment on each piece of property would be considerable.
Right.
Ortonville just went through that.
Did they?
And turned it down.
Yeah, because of the expense of the
Oh,
mall,
sure.
I'm sure. Yeah, now let me see. Let me figure this out. $6,000 per location. Maybe 8.
Choke.
Choke, yeah. Forget the ching, ching. Okay. So anyway, so this came up that, it's a problem, even though they have the signatures. These people would like to have it. They have a total residency of 403 people. So of the 403, 94 signatures were there. They would like a municipal system. I believe the others said no.
What was the required amount to get it put on a ballot?
You need to have over 50%.
Oh.
Yeah. And so that's nowhere as close to it. So anyway, new business was the next issue that came up. Master plan was received from the Planning Commission. Leslie McKenna heads up that chair, and she did a great job. And by the way, she got lots of kudos for doing it. She spent a lot of her own time on it without charging the village for it as well.
Kudos. Is that Greek applause?
That could be. One hand clapping.
I don't know.
That's what it would be. So, and it was approved, immediately to distribute a copy to everybody and make sure that everybody is in conformity with it. Oakland County Emergency Plan was the next thing. There's a resolution asked for floods, tornadoes, that kind of thing, big windstorms, that kind of thing that destroys property and people's homes. And it protects the residents by bringing in others' supports, from, let's say, fire departments and so forth, neighboring.
I think all the communities in this area kind of do that.
They do. And so, of course, that was approved with the Oakland County Emergency Plan. Leonard Mill grant application with the DTE Foundation, and it looks as though the grant information should be returned soon, either yay or nay. So you folks out there will find out soon.
But they don't know whether it looks favorable or not right now.
That's right. We just talked about money for the mill. So in case this grant doesn't go through, can you dig down and maybe help them out?
Well, that budget will be the same at zero.
Budget will be the same as zero.
I don't think that's the budget, though. That's
It's
just
not
the
the budget.
expense.
That's right. That's what they pull out.
Right.
You would know that.
Of course I do.
Okay. You just want to question it. Why
Of course
is that?
I do. To see if you know.
See if we know. Okay. Festival for the Derby was postponed, and they were trying to have it again on another date, and I don't know if that even materialized. You folks out there would know by the roads being closed off. With that, let's go to a break, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we are talking about the village of Leonard and the meeting that they had. And rather interesting topics. Leonard sewer meeting. Let me see, for grants for the sewer system. Low interest loans available based on certain criteria was discussed. And village engineers to get an estimate for cost of the project. Study costs would be required Funding from taxes would be required. System paid by residents who use the water and sewer system as well. And for the record, Mike McDonald says, I'm against it. No municipal system for sewage. He says, we just simply cannot afford it. He said, you're talking just for the study, roughly $40,000 to $50,000.
Unless money drops out of the sky by the grace of God.
It's not going to happen, pretty much. At least not in this case. If you want to wait for it, I mean, you can do that, but I don't think it's going to happen. You can't live long enough.
But on a per resident hit, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, you know that in Brandon's situation. We were just discussing this off air. And there's times to do certain things depending on the area that you live in and times not to do it. Brandon has a serious issue, though, with theirs, and that, as you pointed out, they have septic tanks everywhere.
Well, in Ortonville.
In Ortonville.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a real
and once you get that kind of density and everyone's got a septic tank, then it must reach some critical point.
Right. Neat thing with Leonard, of course, they've got a pretty good planning commission there, and they're looking at those things, and they don't want any contamination if they can help it. So they're looking at engineering systems for septic fields, which has been approved pretty much by Addison Township.
But even that, all the engineering system means is that it's going to get pumped out of yours somewhere else.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah,
and
could be.
The somewhere else, it might be an issue.
Yeah, it could be, but it is approved, sanctioned by Oakland County. You know, that system to be used. It is safe for groundwater. So that's the route that they're taking. Tree removal was the thing. They had 3 bids for it, and the low bid was for Division Street, and no extra tree removal was required beyond that, and it was tabled for a rebid. That they felt that they were out of the, what would she say, the cost range for it, and they wanted to take additional bids on it just to make sure. Ordinance review. Any changes to the ordinance? Ordinance against certain dog breeds was discussed, and a sign ordinance also was in review. A lady wanted to know, she raised her hand, she said, question about signs, being you talk about them, is a smiley face considered a sign? They pretty much put their heads together.
An emoji.
Right. Yeah, if you're in Japan or China, maybe. But anyway, he said, well, I think it probably would be a sign, but that would be a topic for another time.
Nice.
We might discuss. And then the subject came up with chicken ordinance. Hey, you know, folks out there want chickens. They want to have them in town, supposedly. And it was pointed out that according to the Farm Act, it regulates it. And unless you're on a farm, you're not going to be having chickens. It's not going to happen.
Well, what about the situation where a town is expanding and expands into what is a already existing farm? Then does that farm get grandfathered in?
No, I don't think it would happen. I think what they would do is rezone it, the area. And if it was farm before or agriculture before, it'd have to be rezoned for residential.
Okay.
Unless you've got a certain size property, in which case, you know, you'd remain agricultural.
Until that property is sold, then he can still run his farm.
He could, maybe. He could be against ordinances, though, if it's been rezoned.
That's ex post facto.
Yeah, but actually the state of Michigan, actually, and legislation is about to approve, I think, one of the legislative acts to allow farmers to sell frontage on the road of their property. You know, is
For
one
residential?
of the for residential. So
Okay.
that'll be a whole different topic coming up down the line here, according to the Michigan Township Association. So
That'd be different.
times are changing. I mean, things are changing, but it all goes back to this planning, the master plan. That gives them a pretty good roadmap of what needs to be done. It's not necessarily going to be stamped in concrete that this way is going to be done, but you, the people out there, will have your input. You know, if you want this area to be agricultural for years to come, you need to make that voice well heard so that it remains that way.
Or equestrian.
Right. But once you bring in density, which is part of it, amount of people within a location, then you have a real issue, especially in an agricultural area.
Well, true. But as towns expand, that situation is going to make itself more known.
That's true. Now, one other thing came up here in Leonard, and that was the DPW, the guy that handles the DPW, Department of
Public Works.
Yep, Public Works. He said that they had to replace a hydraulic unit on one of the trucks. So that was taken care of as well. Let me see what else. Write-in candidates, they did discuss that for the village council, and it's being reviewed as far as the process for that. Now, that takes care of Leonard. Great little town of Leonard. You folks have not been there, visit. It's a great little place to go. And
have a wonderful strawberry festival every year.
And very friendly people in Leonard, as there are in Oxford as well. Oxford Village Council is the next thing that came up. Sue Bassardit is still the chairperson for this, president, and David Bailey sits on that board, Maureen Helmuth, Joel Frost, and Eric Dolan. Now Eric was absent for this particular meeting held on August 28th. Joe Madur, who is the village manager, was there, and the clerk, the new clerk, Terry Onika, was there. They did the pledge, the agenda, of course, and during the agenda portion of it, Sue Bassardit, the chairperson, moved that the minutes be handled later on in the itinerary or the agenda. So that was approved. Called to the public. No, get out from under the chairs, folks. No, public didn't want to speak. Consent agenda was received and filed. Bills in the amount of $101,630.35, and it was approved. All this information is prearranged so that all these council people, commissioners, have an opportunity to review this in advance, and in which case they should. I can recall doing this, you know, when I was on the village council on the weekend, spending a weekend going over all the facts and information, you know, for the meeting.
And that finally got to your wife?
Well, actually I just take her, lock her in the closet. No, I didn't do that. I could hear her mumbling occasionally, but anyway. So you folks that are on these boards, hopefully the residents will appreciate, you know, the kind of work that you do, that you don't get paid for doing any of this, and just because you have fun. Can you say fun?
Okay.
Okay, right. So anyway, and you have a dedicated responsibility you feel to the community to make an effort to improve things. Call to the public, none, as I said. Consent agenda was received and filed. The bills were approved. Unfinished business. Snow and ice ordinance, remember that one, right?
Yeah.
Get your ice skates out. That was another issue that came up.
Is that for the downtown area?
That's for the downtown all over, actually.
Okay.
For people that don't shovel the snow off their walk, there's quite a discussion that followed this in terms of penalties.
Are they supposed to follow up shoveling with salt or just shovel?
They're not required. It doesn't say salt. It just says to clear any snow and ice.
Okay.
What means that's going to take to do it, I don't know. I always, when I do the sidewalks in front of our home, I always put salt down as well. It doesn't hurt. Next time it snows, you know, it helps deplete the snow a little bit too.
Okay.
Makes the job a little less tight. So it works out well. Let's talk about works out well. It's time for another break. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Miutes By Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we are again talking about the Oxford Village Council meeting, which was held on August 28th of this year. And we worked our way to the unfinished business, which is snow and ice. And we were just discussing how you take care of that ice.
That's
I
right.
suspect salt, right?
And a shovel.
And a shovel, yeah. It's kind of hard to chop, so you probably use salt once you get down to that level. Once it gets chunky and people walk through it, then it's going to be harder to take care of. So you want to make sure you do it right away. Well, what happened here is Mr. Bailey, who sits on this board, Dave Bailey, he felt that the fines were much too rash. He said starting out at $150.
Whoa.
Ooh, you think it's too rash too, don't you?
That buys a lot of salt.
It buys a lot of salt. You're there. You got to put a lot of back work into an energy. But make sure that it's cleared before the inspector gets around and checks. Oh, let me see, your snow is 6 feet deep. It's about time you shoveled that. But anyway, there's other things involved here, and they had quite a discussion on it. Discussion followed in which Maureen Helmuth, who serves on this board, said that they could theoretically receive multi-tickets, but it's not likely that that would happen. And Dave Bailey, brought this point up, according to the letter of the ordinance. Habitual violators, she said, must be ticketed. That you have to have an ordinance with teeth in it, and otherwise it's worthless.
So what's the criteria? 3 strikes and you're out?
Well, here's the thing. Joe Frost, he spoke up and he said $150, first of all, for the first offense, he says he finds excessive. And I think everybody pretty much agreed with that. Residents support this thought. He did talk to residents, see what they thought, and when he said $150 for the first offense, they went, ah! They grabbed their chest.
But I was out of town that day.
But you know what they're paying now? $15.
I think it should be progressive.
Right. Normally, you give somebody a warning the first time around, is what my opinion is. But let's go further with this. They're saying what they finally finished with is that a first offense is a $50 fine.
Okay.
Now, I don't suspect that the guy that's going to be checking the snow and he's going to come out with a ruler and say that your snow is too deep and you're not taking care of it, that he's not going to give you a warning.
What do you mean too deep? If it's there at all.
It's there at all, right. But maybe too deep. Maybe a quarter of an inch might not be too deep. If you measured a quarter of an inch.
It's still slippery.
It could be, yeah. And it's a safety issue. Could be. Probably is.
Well, then there's the criteria of after the snow falls, how much time do you have to get rid of it?
5 minutes. No, I don't think that's it. But anyway, that subject came up too as part of it. But anyway, what they suggested is the first offense would be $50. Now, I know the guy that goes around and he inspects this kind of stuff and gives out tickets. I suspect he probably would say, look, that needs to be shoveled. If it's not by the time I come through here tomorrow, then you'll be receiving a fine for $50. Give him a little warning.
Or he could just charge him $50 and save himself the work.
Yeah, could do that, but I don't think that's going to go either. I don't think it'll fly. Guess how much for the second offense? There we are, $150 is what the proposal was. And for the third offense, which is, let me see, 3 times in 3 months, consecutive. 3 times in 3 months.
Is this on a rotating basis where the first offense drops off after 3 months?
Let me see. Here's the first time. I make a note. Here's the second time. Make a second note. Third time. You're in trouble. $500 fine. And not only
$500?
Yeah, $500. And not only that, but if you don't take care of it in any of these cases, then DPW will come out and they'll take care of it in your bill for the cost of the DPW workers to do the job.
A taxing situation.
Yeah, it's a very taxing situation. So make sure the moral to the story is make sure you clear the snow and the ice off your walks. Doesn't matter if you're in the city or in the village, with the downtown, or you're out in your development. Make sure that it gets clear. It's a safety issue. And they say it's about time we had teeth in this. It needs to be done, as other ordinances as well.
Right. And if there's a sidewalk in front of your house, you get a pass.
Get a pass. Okay, that might work for where he's at because he's kind of out in the country. No sidewalks.
That's right.
Okay, new business. And a request for use of garbage by Mike Solwald, or garbage, garage, mystery garbage. Yeah, you could have the garbage in the garage, I guess, but it's a garage.
Okay.
And actually there's some talk about them flattening that garage at some point.
Where is this again?
It's next to the police station and the administrative buildings.
Oh.
You know where that's at, in the back? Where they keep their police cars.
They've been utilizing that building for years and years.
Right. Now, the council is talking about leveling it, making it parking out there. Now, I don't know why you'd want to do that.
Just parking or making a parking structure?
No, not a structure. Just parking
Have
space.
you seen parking in downtown Oxford on Friday night?
No. Is there parking?
No.
Right. That is a serious issue, has been for a number of years, at least since I've been here. Parking has always been an issue. If there's an event going on, you have to park on top of the next guy's car, whatever. So can't park on the sidewalk, you get a ticket.
And that's where the fight started.
That's where the fight started, yep. So it is a problem. The parking garage will be a good idea. We'll dig into your cash and
thank
you
you.
can build one next week. Okay. So the garage is a concern, and robotics from the school team want to use the garage and ask for permission to do that, and it was approved that they go ahead and do it. They've done it in the past, and Police Chief Solwald said that You know, it has not been an issue, not been a problem, and the school has been very courteous in the way they handle things. So, not an issue. It was approved. Zoning amendment. Now, we did talk about this with the Planning Commission, where the ZBA was to change from 6 members to 5 members. Remember?
Yeah.
And the Zoning Board of Appeals recommended, or Zoning Board of Appeals, the Planning Commission recommended to the Village Council that it be accepted
Did they?
to 5 members. And that's what this was all about. It was reviewed and approved
All right.
immediately. So that's it, 5 members on the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Long
For you
as
folks
it's-
out there,
as long as it's an odd number.
right, you folks would have an inclination to be on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and you have a little background in terms of building, construction, that kind of thing. They are looking for members on the Zoning Board of Appeals. You meet roughly maybe once a month. If you do that, sometimes there's no meeting for 2 or 3 months, depending on the requirements and what's needed. Okay, so just contact the village offices and tell them that you're interested, and they'll review, and Village Council hopefully will approve you, get you on that board. Bylaws amendments. Drew Benson did talk about that, some changes that need to be made to the bylaws for the 2013 ordinance changes to bring them up to date. So that was approved as well to go forward with it. Storm drain bids. Don Brantley, who was in charge of the DPW, has a parking lot issue, which we talked about in John Burke Realty parking lot right behind it. They have a storm drain that has collapsed, and they need to put asphalt in, that kind of thing. The estimated cost of $14,575.
That's a lot of dirt.
It is a lot of dirt and asphalt and new storm basin.
Yeah.
Site Works is the name of the company that services was the one for Metamora that was approved for Metamora. Did I say that too quick? Trying to get through this.
Is that going to restrict access to businesses in that area?
No, it shouldn't. This is
Okay.
a rather quick process.
Okay.
These people, not the first day at the ranch, they'll do it.
Oh.
Contract renewal also for from Northern Well and Pump for a 3-year extension for environmental testing of the wells. Pretty important, the water issue. Bids financial accounting audit for October 2nd, 2018. 3 quotes were given by the clerk, and the cost of $7,500 to have these people come in and review it and make recommendations, and that was approved as well. With that, what's coming up?
We have meetings on 9/17 at 6 p.m. Addison Township Board of Trustees. Also at 6 p.m. the Village of Oxford DDA is going to be meeting. And on 9/18 at 7 p.m. Addison Township Fire Board. And at 7 p.m. the same day, Village of Oxford Planning Commission. On 9/19 at 3 p.m. the Polly Ann Trail Management Council will be meeting in the Village of Oxford offices. And on 9/20 at 7 p.m. the Village of Leonard Planning Commission, and at 4:30 that same day, North Oakland Transportation Authority,
Yes.
NOTA, will be meeting at the NOTA business offices in Lake Orion.
Great organization.
You bet.
I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
Catch us next time right here on Miutes by Minute.
See you then.